Today, we're going to unpack a really fascinating and honestly a kind of counterintuitive idea called the persuasion paradox. It's a concept that might just change the way you look at every single disagreement or tough conversation you have because it suggests the best way to influence someone is to stop trying so hard to win. You know that feeling, right? You're in a conversation, maybe it's a debate with a friend or family member, and you've got all the facts lined up. You're passionate, you know you're right. But it just feels like a tug-of-war. And the harder you pull on that rope, the more they just dig in their heels and pull back. It is so frustrating. And the worst part? Nobody ever changes their mind. Well, that feeling of hitting a brick wall is exactly what we're talking about today. It's the core of this idea, the persuasion paradox. And it's the seemingly backward truth that the more focused we get on convincing somebody, the less effective we actually are. It's like our own intensity and our desire to win builds the very wall we're trying so desperately to break down. So what is actually going on here? I mean, is it just that people are stubborn? Well, it turns out there's some really cool science behind all this. Let's dig into the psychology of why we all instinctively push back. It all comes down to a psychological principle called reactance theory. And the core idea is actually pretty simple. We all have this deep, deep need to feel free and in control. So the moment we feel like someone is trying to corner us, telling us what to think, what to believe, what to do, this little alarm goes off in our mind. And our natural impulse is to re-establish our independence, which often means doing the exact opposite of what someone is trying to make us do. And what's really fascinating is how this whole reactance thing gets triggered. It's not just an on-off switch. For it to really kick in, first you have to believe you actually have a choice in the matter. Then, the more important that freedom is to you, the more fiercely you're going to defend it. It also gets stronger if you feel like multiple freedoms are being threatened at once. And get this, it doesn't even have to be a direct order. Even just an implied threat, a hint that you're being pushed, can set it off. It's this powerful, automatic response. You know, Mark Twain totally nailed it when he said, there is a charm about the forbidden that makes it unspeakably desirable. The second you tell someone they can't have or do something, it suddenly becomes the most appealing thing in the world. And this isn't just about teenage rebellion. It's a fundamental part of who we are as human beings. Okay, so if pushing harder is the absolute wrong approach, then what's the alternative? This brings us to a really critical choice we all have in how we communicate. It's about realizing we've different tools we can use. Let's think about it like this. On one hand, you've got pure argumentation. This is the world of logic, facts, evidence. You know, like a lawyer in a courtroom or a scientist publishing a paper. It's objective and it's all about methodically refuting counter-arguments. But on the other hand, you've got persuasion. And this is all about emotion and values and shared beliefs. Think of a really moving speech or a powerful ad. It's designed to connect with your heart, not just your brain. So let's imagine argumentation as a hammer. You've got this wall of resistance, and you're trying to smash through it with the brute force of your logic and your facts. And you know what? Sometimes a hammer works. But when you're dealing with someone's deeply held beliefs, swinging that hammer usually just makes them build the wall even higher and thicker. But what if you chose a paintbrush instead? With a paintbrush, you're not trying to demolish their point of view. You're inviting them to help you paint a whole new picture, together. You're showing them a new landscape of ideas that they can explore, and this is the most important part, that they can choose to step into on their own. This tiny shift from a hammer to a paintbrush is the whole secret. So how do we actually learn to use that paintbrush? This is where we move from just understanding the problem to learning the solution. It's about developing a totally different kind of influence, one that's built not on force, but on empathy. You know, the famous psychologist Carl Rogers figured this all out decades ago. He realized that the key to helping people change wasn't about having a better argument or proving them wrong. It was about creating a space where they felt so safe and so deeply understood that they could let their guard down and consider changing all by themselves. The lesson here is huge. You don't need a bigger hammer. You need a key. And that key is empathy. So what does that actually look like? Well, it all starts with empathetic listening. And that means your goal completely shifts. It's no longer about convincing, it's about genuinely understanding. You try to create a safe, non-judgmental space. You listen for the feelings that are hidden underneath the words. And maybe most importantly, you remove the threat that you're trying to fix them or change them. Because when people truly feel heard, that's when the defensive walls start to crumble on their own. But listening, as powerful as it is really just the key that unlocks the door. It doesn't actually get the person to walk through it. That's where storytelling comes in. A good story can transport someone into a new perspective without ever triggering that freedom alarm we talked about. It completely bypasses their defenses and just invites them in.
So, when you put all of this together, it leads to a pretty radical conclusion. It requires us to completely redefine what it even means to win a conversation. It's about setting an entirely new goal for ourselves when we communicate.
The real victory isn't about scoring points. It's not about forcing the other person to say you're right. The true win is building a bridge of understanding between two different worlds. Even if you never end up agreeing, if you can both walk away feeling heard, feeling respected, that is a success that a forceful argument could never, ever achieve. All right, so let's nail down the takeaways here. First, remember the paradox. The harder you push, the more they'll resist. It's just human nature. Second, choose your tool wisely. Are you grabbing the hammer of argumentation or the paintbrush of persuasion? Third, never forget that empathetic listening is the master key to opening a closed mind. And finally, the biggest lesson of all, real, lasting influence is all about connection, not correction.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. The next time you feel yourself in that conversational tug of war and you feel your grip tightening on that rope, what are you going to do? Will you keep pulling with all your might? Or will you have the courage to just let it go?